Hey guys, Todd with Center Valley Customs. Welcome back. If you are back, if you're new, welcome too. Last week, if you watched the video, if you didn't, go back and watch it. But please, anyways, sorry, that was rude. Yeah, go watch it right now. If you don't, just stop this one right now. Well, actually, finish this one, then go back and watch the other one, and then come back to this one and watch this one, and then go to the other ones and watch the other ones, and then come back to this one and watch it again. Anyway, sorry. If you saw last week, we made the cross member here. We had to open this center hole up. Whoa. We had to open the center hole up for the drive shaft. If you can see, we got plenty of room now, up, down, left, and right, which is great. We also finished up a whole bunch of welding on these other cross members, actually put them in. Did some last bit of frame boxing, and we added our vent tube for the axle. This week, during the week, whatever, I put the axle back in. Should be in for good. Nothing's tight yet, but everything's back in. So today we are gonna work on putting the fuel tank back in and running the fuel line, new fuel line. I got some cheap AN stuff that I got. Honestly, I don't even know where it came from, but I got that. Odin just came in. Yes, hello, welcome. Anyway, I don't know where I got it from, but we're gonna use that in our new, not new, but use that with whatever, this fuel cell to put back in there. But before we can put this back in, we need to put a different sending unit in here. Actually, before we do that, I should actually clean this up, paint this. That way while we're doing that, we can that can dry, and we can inhale a bunch of paint fumes for a few hours. Anyway, my goal with this truck is for, I don't want to say all the gauges to work, but all the gauges to work. At least fuel, oil pressure, temperature. Those three are the main three that I want to work. So right now I got like a little 3-gauge cluster underneath the dash, which I absolutely hate those, but kind of need them. So I want to try to eliminate all those. So this week after work, I checked my fuel gauge, tested it with a meter, and I found that I was getting no voltage through my meter, or through the fuel gauge. It was open. So that's junk. So I ordered a brand new one. And then I ordered the correct sending unit to go with it. So this truck is a 0 to 30 ohm, so that's what I ordered. So before we can put that in here, we need to cut the arm, or cut the rod, whatever, this piece down, so that it's at the correct angle. Should be halfway, the center of the rod should be halfway down your tank, so that way it reads correct. 45 degrees up, full, 45 degrees down, empty. So that's what we're going to work on right now. All right, so I'm gonna pull this sender out. Okay, so inside here, you can see it on this one. There's a little wiper. So there, well, that's probably why it didn't work. Anyway, there's a little wiper in here, and depending on what vehicle you have will determine what range sender you need. So like older vehicles, I want to say like in the 50s up to, I don't know what year, but they used GM anyway. I don't know about other brands. but GM used a 0 to 30 ohm gauge with a 0 to 30 ohm sending unit. And the newer vehicles use like 0 to 90. So depending on what year vehicle you have or whatever, you have to do research and figure out what sender you need. So if you have the wrong sender with the wrong gauge, your fuel level will be way out of whack. So I believe when you're out of fuel, it will be 0 ohms. When you, as your level raises, your ohms or your resistance within the sender will raise, which will give you, you know, whatever the reading on your gauge. So I'm gonna test this one because I did this once already and I got like some weird, I think aftermarket stuff can be way different. So on your meter, if you go to ohms resistance, now mine is automatically switches to whatever range you're in, but if you have a I don't want to call it like a cheaper gauge or a cheaper meter that has different settings, so it'd be like 0 to 20, I think, 0 to 200, maybe 0 to 2000, whatever. Go 0 to 200, and then you can put one on the terminal and one on the outside of the gauge or outside of the thing. When it's empty, right now, like right now it would be empty. It should be reading 0. It's actually reading like 5, which is close enough. I might be reading through myself actually. So whatever, 7 ohms. And then if we go all the way full, we read 90, 95. So like I said, newer vehicles will use 0 to 90. So this is for a 0 to 90 gauge, not 0 to 30 gauge like I have. And I believe 0 to 90 is pretty standard, but I could be completely wrong. I've only dealt with 0 to 90 and 0 to 30s. So that is no bueno with the gauge that I have. So now I want to take this sender, which like I said, inside here is a little wiper. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but let's see. Inside here, you can see like that thing right there. It's more or less a potentiometer or a resistor. So as this goes up and down, it increases and decreases the resistance. So one thing I did when I first got this, this rod was not assembled on the unit, whatever. So I had to put it together. Well, that little wiper that's in there, I wanted it bent out farther so that it had a lot of tension against that, whatever that's called, thing that tells you what your resistance is. Well, when I bent it, I broke it. So I spent probably a half hour soldering it back together. And I thought about taking the wiper off of that old one, or the old one, and putting it on here, but luckily I didn't go that route because it's completely different. So anyways, what I want to do is I need this wiper, this arm, to be halfway down the tank. So I already measured this. I think it's 10 inches, roughly. So 10 inches. So I want this arm at when it's at 90 degrees to be at, and don't forget your little gasket here. I want that to be at 5 inches. Holy jeez, way up there. That's probably why that one's so short. So I need what do I need? Phillips screwdriver. Also, I want to know if there's that foam inside this thing. There is not. Oh, this is not going to work. There is. This is not going to work. There is the foam in there, but there's actually like a baffle, which a lot of metal shavings in there too. Okay, well that sucks. Unless I shorten this arm somehow. I might try to shorten this arm. There's a baffle in here that goes from about here to here. So I need this sending unit to be this direction. But that arm is way too long. So I'm probably going to take that apart and cut this arm down. Alright, I got this all modified the way I want it. So I did, cut this down to 5 inches so that my rod was at 5 inches. And when you do that, you need to make sure that when you're at empty, you're at the bottom of the tank, and when you're at full, you're at the top of the tank. You can do that by, you know what this length is, so you could use a Pythagorean theorem and do a squared plus b squared equals c squared, which doesn't help you with anything because it's not the right measurement. So don't be an idiot. Just do it by hand. Figure it out yourself. Stick it on the side and move it until it reaches top and bottom. I actually shortened it up a little bit, like a ½ inch or so, because if you think about it, this float isn't going to float on the bottom. There's probably going to be half to 3/4 of this is going to be under gas before it actually is on empty. So leave yourself a little room, I guess is what I'm saying. You'd rather be at full for a longer period of time than run empty before you're actually empty. So, yeah. So now what's the chances of me getting this into the hole? I don't know who cut that hole. Probably my father. Looks like some shoddy craftsmanship like he would do. He's got bad eyes. Oh boy. That ain't gonna go. Force it? Ugh. Well, what if... What if this... What if this just wasn't here? Whoops. In all honesty, actually, when you get these sending units, if they're like universal style, usually the sheet that it comes with will tell you, like, if your tank is this deep, you set it to half, and it'll tell you what your arm should be. If it's a perfect square, your arm should be half of whatever your tank height is, but I think. Alright, maybe we just try again. Get in there. Okay, it's in there. It ain't coming back out, I can tell you that much. Okay, so I want my arm to be this way. Like so. Don't tell me this pattern isn't the same. Alright. Zip them in and call her good. Get all these there first. See the length of these things? You only needed them to be like 3/4 of an inch, ½ inch at most. No, we'll just throw these 3 inches in there. Should be good. Measure this again just because. Probably won't work now. Zero. Perfect. Empty. Okay, get it thrown back in the truck. And then we can start playing with some AN fittings. Actually, we gotta find hardware. I don't know if I have any or not. Use old stuff. Maybe I'll clean up the bottom of this quick before I get too far. I cleaned up that tank and it's pretty pitted. It'd be in my best interest not to use it and just get a new one and replace it. So I painted it black and I stuck it in. So now I need to get this fancy AN fitting thing, I guess this way, onto here. The proper way to do this, I've never used these before, but from what I see, the proper way to do this is to buy the tool that like locks this in the vise, and then you put this in another thing, and then you screw it in, or one with a handle, it pushes this on. I don't have either one of those things. So I'm going to struggle like hell probably to get this fitting pushed onto here. And then once you get this pushed on, this thing threads into here and pushes the hose, whatever, over top of this. So I believe you're supposed to wrap this up with tape. This one's already got tape on it from when I got it. And then you're supposed to death wheel this off square. Good luck with that. And it's not straight. That kind of is. I'm going to try to cut these, get this cut as clean as possible. Now this isn't like the nice AN line that has like the hard plastic whatever in it. This is more just like a rubber line that's braided. More or less cheap. Supposed to be able to take this tape off. Something like that. I assume this is not supposed to be frayed out at all. But we're going to give it a shot and see what we can come up with. So I say to lube these up somehow like that. They make like a special kind of lube. And then this is supposed to just slip over this. Okay. Then you got to push this all the way on. Oh. That was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. It's all the way on. Okay. Now, lube this up. And this is just supposed to thread into here. Grab a couple of my AN wrenches here. So you grab your AN, your special AN wrenches here. They actually make fancy AN aluminum wrenches so that you don't nick up these fittings. I could care less. I don't know. I think the people that use them are way too into it. But actually you can, what I've heard of people doing, should be good enough. Okay, that looks nice. Anyway, what I've heard of people doing is taking electrical tape, and I think the electrical tape the fitting so that when you use a regular crescent wrench, it doesn't nick these fittings up. People get upset when they nick the anodize on their fittings. Me, I don't care. Yeah, it's in there. As long as it don't leak. What are you guys looking at? That? It's just a chair that my mother-in-law sent here. Nothing special about it. Oh, that. Oh, that. That L84 53 LS all aluminum. That. Well, I don't know what you're looking at. I can't hear you. We'll deal with that in another video. Probably do a separate video for that. You might even see that before you see this video, to be honest with me. I just got it and I'm dying to tear it down, but I don't want to say too much. So this line that comes off the bottom of my fuel cell with this fitting we just put on, it's gonna go, my plan is, drill an 1.5 inch hole here for that line to go in and then follow the frame rail all the way up to front of the truck. So I went and I bought a brand new hole saw because I was not gonna sit around for 7 hours with my crappy hole saws and try to knock this hole out. So I'm gonna smash this hole in here and then feed the line up there. I have no idea how I'm gonna get the line into that little hole through that cross member. Hopefully I can get my arm up in there and grab it and pull it through. There's also a brake line in there still that I never removed. And a little tech tip, if you have a brake line in your frame rail and you're boxing the frame, it will smoke and start on fire. So remove that before you do any welding near brake fluid or whatever. Got my hole cut. I forgot that steel that we use to box in the frame and make all these brackets and stuff is ridiculously hard. I don't know where it came from or what the deal is, but it's hard. So even when we made our brackets and we tried to use a hole saw to drill out, cope these essentially, we couldn't do it. We burnt up, I think, 2 or 3 hole saws. That's what was happening here. So I had to use the other hole saw, and that made quick work. So now the plan is more or less just fish that line all the way up to the front till we get to the fuel pump at the front, which is another issue. Alright, my microphone's gonna die. I got this line, ran all the way to the front. The issue I'm having is my fuel pump does not have a bung, threaded in bung. It just has a nipple on it, like so. Can you see that? So this line is not even made, it's not made to be clamped on anything. It's made to go into the AN fittings. So I need to either buy, I don't know, slip-on adapter thing, or I need to get a different fuel pump that has a capped end so I can thread in a AN fitting. So I'm going to look at that tonight and see what I can find, see what my best option is. But I think I'm done for the night. I'm going to measure up a brake line and maybe pull the old brake line out of this frame. But I'm done for the night. Tomorrow's a new day. I don't know what we have in store. So see you tomorrow. Hey guys, new day. It's actually pretty late already. It's pushing, yeah, 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock already tonight. I had, I don't want to say a big day, but Travis and I went to the junkyard this morning and messed around for 4 or 5 hours and ended up not getting anything. And then came back here and chitter-chattered and kind of worked on Taylor's car a little bit and whatnot. So I have not gotten a chance to really work on anything yet. I did start working on this for a little bit. Show you kind of what I've already done. Oh, so we're off the fuel. We're done with that. I had to end up ordering a different fuel pump that has 1/4 inch MPT spots for fittings, so I can run a -6 AN directly into the fuel pump instead of making some adapter to go from a 3/8 hose. I think it's 3/8 hose to a -6 AN and all that stuff. And then I also ordered like a fancy inline fuel filter to put in line with the AN stuff. So we're off of that. We're on the brakes now. So what I've done already is I removed all the brake lines, everything within the whole truck, and I bought this adjustable proportioning valve, essentially, Willwood one. So I made these lines, these small lines. This one was a bugger because it's so tight. You can order that proportioning valve with the lines already pre-bent, which is probably what I should have done, but I decided to make it myself, so I did. But that was kind of a pain in the ass. Also, I did that just to test out this whole flaring tool thingamajigger, which I'll show you how to use that. But that thing is mint, and it's a cheap one. It's a Vivor. I shouldn't say cheap. I mean, it's still like 130, 140 bucks or something. So definitely not the cheapest one out there, but I think like a nice name brand one is like 350 bucks or something obnoxious. So that's kind of what I've done so far. So now I plan on running this brake line. Speaking of not cheap, this nickel copper stuff is not cheap. And I ended up going with that versus like the regular brake line, more or less because it's more flexible and it's easier to work with. So that's kind of why I went with this stuff. So now my plan is to run this from the back all the way to the front. Probably do the front lines and then go back and do all the little short lines between the rear axle just in case I didn't get enough, which lighting is terrible. Which what was I going to say? I got a 50-foot roll of that nickel copper tubing. And just in case I didn't get enough, which should be highly, highly unlikely, I can just go buy like the little short sections or whatever and then cut them and bend them and whatever myself. So this proportioning valve thing has 3 outputs, just like a normal one. Whoops, I got a wrench on there. Like this is what was on here, kind of like a stock GM style. But I had the front teed, so I just had a plug into one of them. So this one has 3 like that, but I'm going to run a separate line for each front and a line for the rear. Now, for the rear brake line, I've gone kind of back and forth and read forums and stuff like that. I'm going to run 3/16 all the way around. Originally, this truck had 3/16 for the front lines, which were teed. Actually, originally it only had a single pot master cylinder and used that for everything. But then I put disc brakes on the front, disc brakes on the back, blah, blah, blah. But I still ran a 1/4 inch to the rear, and then I teed the front with 3/16. I was debating on running 1/4 inch to the back again. And I kind of read forums and stuff and looked online and whatever. And the theories are all different. And I kind of agree with most of them. With 1/4 inch, apparently, like with disc brakes, you use very, very minimal brake fluid, whatever. They don't take that much brake fluid to activate them or whatever you want to call it. But you have 2 brake calipers in the back, so the volume that you need, I don't know. What I've read online and what I've seen, they say use the same line for everything. And just because you have a bigger line doesn't mean that your pressure changes and whatnot. I don't know. So I'm going to go with 3/16 all the way around and see what happens. Maybe it won't be enough, but usually the rear brakes don't do much anyway. But that's what I'm doing. I'm going 3/16 all the way around. Done deal. So I'm going to start with running that brake line all the way to the front, get the other ones ran up, and go from there. Brake line ran from the back all the way up to the front. I also got this front right sticking out a little bit. I need to put a fitting on there so I can attach it underneath there. There's a there's an adapter to go from, I don't know if you can see it, but there's an adapter up there to go from 3/16 line to a -3 for the Willwood calipers. I put those, actually I put that bracket on when I did the disc brakes the first time, and I'm just going to reuse where that bracket location is for the new brakes. But I need to put a flare on. This here is a hydraulic brake flaring tool. This thing is awesome. Actually, it doesn't only do brake, whatever you want to call it, double flares. This actually does like push to connect, fuel lines. It'll do like transmission lines, I think air conditioning lines. These don't seem big enough for air conditioning lines, but it does a bunch of different flares. And I saw this on, I think, Mortsky Repair, honestly, on YouTube. But if you haven't seen his channel, watch his channel too. And I don't even know the guy, so don't think he obviously ain't paying me to freaking tell people to go watch his channel. But anyway, I think I saw it, he had one, and I was like, yes, I'm buying that immediately. And then I looked up the price of a nice one. Like I said, it was like 350 bucks. And I found this one on Amazon or something, I don't know, for like 150, 130 bucks, something like that. This thing is freaking awesome, and it saves you saves you a lot of time screwing up flares and everything else. So I'll get my stuff ready and get the camera set up, and I'll show you how to use this mechanism. Okay, so this comes with a whole bunch of different dies. Obviously, you find the one that you need. This is a 3/16 inverted flare, 45 degree. So first thing you do, oh, and also it comes with all of these, I don't know what you want to call them. I guess these would be a die also. But there's a pointed one for doing inverted flares. And then there's one, I don't know what you call this, the male end, for doing the bubble portion, or the flaring portion. So we're going to start with that. So you put this in here. There's a little, whoops. This just slides in here like so. And then you put these, if I'm doing just a straight line before we do anything, we need to put this on because we're not going to be one of those people. It's probably going to fall off. Anyway, you can either stick this on here and then slide it in the tool. I like to try to put this in the tool, which it goes with these flanges towards the tool, and then I'll slide this in. And you want your line to be even with the edge of this flange. So I'll tighten this up a hair just so I can slide this around a little bit. Oops, too much. Okay, so that's about even. So then you clamp this down. It might be a little much actually. Oop. Come on, you damn thing. Okay, right there. So clamp this down. So that just holds the line from moving. Then there is a knob on here, whoops, to relieve the pressure in the hydraulic cylinder. Spin this until it touches the flare, until it's tight in the flare. Make sure the little pin goes inside the hole. Okay, so that's tight. It's just snug. You don't need to like reef on this. But then you just pump this. I don't know if you can see that I'm pumping this until you feel a little bit of pressure. Don't go too much, especially with these copper lines, because you will screw up the flare. So then you open the relief valve, spin this back, slide this one out, and now we want to do the 45-degree flare. Slide this in, rotate this back in until it touches, until it's snug. Okay, that's snug. Close my relief valve thing and do the same thing again. So again, just pump it until you feel some tension. Don't overdo it. That's good. Now relieve it again, and it should be good. Loosen this up, pull your lines out, and bam. Perfect flare every single time. I mean, beautiful flare. Like I said, if you never heard of one of these and you do brakes sort of often or whatever, or every time you do them you spend 3 hours trying to make a flare and those stupid twisty whatever the hell you want to call them. I use one of those cheap brake tools forever, and this is a game changer. This is super nice, and it's nice that you can get it in places. You don't need to take the line off the vehicle like some of them that have the different dials that you put in a vise, and then it has the hand crank thing. I think this is better because you can actually physically move it around. You gotta pull the whole line out of your vehicle, take it over to your bench, put it in your vise, and flare your ends. So I would definitely highly recommend looking into one of these. Even the cheap one. Honestly, this one works great. I can't imagine what the really nice high-end ones work. So I'm gonna just knock out running these lines because nobody wants to see a guy roll around on the ground, and 90% of the time I'm under there anyway, and there's no lighting under there, so you really can't see anything. But what I am going to do is I'm only going to run these lines up here and leave a bunch of, I guess you'd call it slack or extra line, mainly because once I put these motor mounts in, and I don't know what I'm going to run for headers, I might even just end up getting like, I don't want to say stock style, but I think Hooker and whatever make like a manifold style header. I might end up just running those if there's no room. But regardless, I don't want to put these brake lines between the frame and the manifold or whatever, and then them just be in the way for when I try to run headers or whatever I run for exhaust. So the other thing I am going to do in the back is I will make a bracket off of here that comes down so that this thing, which isn't ideal, but so that this can attach like so. This line is actually too long. I need to get a shorter one, and this line is made for a 1/4 inch line, so I need to have this adapter, which I don't like at all, and it only goes in like 4 threads, so I don't trust it. I'm also going to put some tabs off the back of the axle here to hold this adapter that goes from 3/16 line to dash AN, which I could have just bought really long AN style stainless lines or whatever that would come all the way to a T. But I didn't want to mess around with trying to order the right size and everything else. So that is my plan for the rest of the night, I think, is just try to get all these lines ran. And then maybe tomorrow I'll come out and I'll finish up these other, whatever, for each caliper in the rear. So yeah, that's going to be it for me for tonight. Well, I'm going to keep working, but I'm not going to record anymore tonight. I just want to get all these lines at least ran, and then tomorrow we can finish up the back, make some brackets, and then we should be pretty well set until I want to wait to connect all these lines until I actually do the motor mounts, which next weekend, rain, sleet, snow, freezing cold, super duper hot weather, I don't care. I'm getting them in because I don't want to say it's holding me up, but it's kind of holding me up because I need to do that before I can put my radiator in. I need to do that before I can finish the brake lines. I need to do that before I can figure out what I need to do for exhaust. I need to do that to see if the mounts I bought are even going to work. So it's kind of holding me up, but not terrible. So have a good night. I'll see you in the morning. Good morning. So last night I ran my brake lines, got all my lines from both front wheels and from the rear up to the master at least. Like I said yesterday, I don't want to plumb this into the master until I kind of figure out what I got going on here. I'm also going to order some brake line separators. They're just like clips that go between the brake lines to keep them separated. But I do want to run the lines down almost to the firewall and then down, and then it'll actually kind of backtrack through the frame. That way I have plenty of room for whatever headers I plan on putting on. I have been out here a little bit. When I got up this morning, I fed little 4-legged friends. They love that wet cat food. I mean, gobble that stuff down. But if I get it on my hands, it's a challenge not to throw up. Anyway, so I came out and I started making some brackets. So I made these little tabs. I already cut the existing ones that were on the axle off. So these will go around this adapter from a 3/16 to a -3 AN. And wherever this kind of ends up, we'll weld these tabs on, and that'll hold that. So wherever this line is relaxed and kind of naturally wants to be, that's where we're going to weld it on. I also made this bracket, which will go here. Got a bunch of stuff in the way. Which will go here through this line, weld that to the frame where that hole is, and that'll hold this rubber line. Like I said, this rubber line's kind of long, so either I'm going to replace this, or maybe if I can get a loop in it or something, maybe it won't be so bad. That actually probably wouldn't be the worst thing right there. But, so that's that. I also made this little tab. So this little tab will I'll weld to the top of the pumpkin right there. And then as we run this brake line, we'll kind of sneak around this, come up over, that'll hold it on the top, and then sneak back around and hit this one. I did think about just coming out of here and going up and right on top of these, but I think that'd look kind of silly. So that's what we're going to do right now. I got the welder already ready, and we'll just start tacking some brackets on, and then we can start making the lines in the rear, and that'll be complete. Everything will be all plumbed, ready to go. I'll still have to get a couple fasteners, like to hold the 3/16 brake line, because where it goes underneath the K-member, I use some, they're like rubber coated holders, but I don't like them. They just bend back out. So I want something that clamps them around and then you just mount it to the K-member. But I got to order those yet and whatnot. So finish welding this up and make some brake lines. Call it good right there. Oh, son of a bitch. Ow. I can smell it burning. Oh boy. That one was a good one. I don't know if you can see it. Got me good. Looks pretty square though. Alright, we'll put a flare on here. Got all my stuff. I'm going to pull this out and mark it so I know, I don't know, where I should just said push this in and mark it. Which I'll have to go a little shy of that so that I can get this fitting. Oh, all the way in here. So if this is all the way in, my fitting's going to be right there. Worst case scenario. Anyways. Okay. Put your fitting on. Don't forget that. We've all done it. I'm going to put the male end in, I guess you'd call it. These in. Oh yeah, we'll have enough. Okay. Now, thread this in. Okay, that's tight. Close this. Give her some pumps until it gets tight. Let her out. Slide this out. Grab the one you need, which is all the way over there. Okay, tighten this up, give her a couple pumps again until you feel some tension right there. Back her off. This off. Boom. Take this tube. I'm gonna give her a twist, which ain't gonna matter because it's just gonna, come on, how did I do this before? There we go. Thread this into here, tighten it up, and then that should sit in there. So I'm gonna make this short line. Something I've been doing, and obviously you can do this with wire or anything really, but for the line length, I've been taking a zip tie and putting it inside one end, and then just kind of eyeballing it to the other, and then cutting it. And so far that's been working okay. You got to leave them a tiny bit long because of the bubble. When you flare it, it actually shortens the line up a little bit. So I'm going to just leave this a hair long, and then make some lines. Alright, got that one in. Makes a little up, whatever, little zigzag, but looks beautiful. Now the long line, which is longer, it's going to have a lot more bends, but honestly the way this stuff bends, it should be easier than doing that little stubby thing. Alright, I got my line made up here. Hopefully it fits. Looks like it should work. I want to try to maybe not. I'm not going to tighten all this up too tight because I'm going to have to take these off to do a little touch-up paint. Wrong wrench. Grabbed that thing like 7 times. Alright. It's gonna work. Looks awesome. Okay, I got my last line in. Went around, up and over, through my little tab, around, right to there. I'm not gonna lie, I got one itty bitty tiny kink right here, and part of me wants to redo it, but the other part of me says it'll be fine. It's not like kinked enough where it's pinching the line, but that's it. All the brake lines are in. The only thing we got to do is I'll go through, well, I'll pull the back off and I'll spritz a little paint on all the spots that I ground down. But otherwise, other than that, all we got to do is connect these in here. Great. All right, that's it. I'm going to end this video here. Did a bunch. Got fuel and brakes. Well, kinda. We got fuel and brakes from this end up to that end. Like I said, with the brakes, all I got to do is run those into the master. I do want to bench bleed that master, even though I probably don't really have to. But I would like to more or less bleed all the air out below this proportioning valve, just so when I put the lines back on, I know that that's all bled through really, really good. So, fuel pump. So I did order a new fuel pump from Speedway, whatever, that has 1/4 inch MPT fittings instead of just a nipple that comes out. So I'll replace that. It'll be a good peace of mind anyway just to replace it, because I don't know how old that one is or what it is or where it came from or any of that kind of thing. But I'll keep it as a spare. Yeah, then we can get that finished up. That'll be great. I got some other fittings just to cap some ends and maybe a vent. I also got a fuel filter coming for this also. So there'll be a couple things we got to do, but nothing major. Next video, I said motor mounts. I need to do the motor mounts before I can put the radiator, finish up the brakes, and plumb all that back together. So that will probably be the next video, I hope. Other than that, actually I did, like I said, I picked up a L84 5.3 liter out of like a 2019 to 2022 Silverado, something like that, something in those years. I'm dying to tear that down, so I'd like to do a tear down video on that also, just to see what we got and what we got to work with. So, but I'm gonna end it here. I appreciate you watching. Watch my other videos if you like this one. Thanks for the people that have been coming back. I appreciate it very much. We're over 100 subscribers. I didn't throw that out there. Over 100 subscribers. But tell your friends, tell your family, whatever. So I will catch you on the next one.